All right, folks, welcome back. I'm Jake Ellenbogen. Today, we're going to be talking about updated position battles for the LA Rams following the trade of Ben Skowronek. I didn't get around to making yet another video because I felt like it really wasn't needed. I changed the title, I added in the description, and to be honest with you, by the time I found out the news, I was still, over at my old house, and I was packing up all my stuff, and, by the time I got back recording it, it was super late, so there was really no point to really do it. So apologies on that one. Obviously, if it was like Cooper Kupp, I would have made a video, probably gone live right from my phone. But no, I want to talk about position battles that really are standing out to me, in this on this team, and I think. The Ben Skowronek news came as a little bit of a shock, not necessarily about the fact it happened, but more so when it happened, to see it happen right then and there, even before training camp, before the rookies even reported, was a little surprising. But let's dive into it because I think it's important here to talk about some of these guys. And we'll start off here with running back. Because obviously the quarterback, Jimmy Garoppolo, is the backup quarterback. He won't be for the first 2 games because he is suspended. He'll go on the suspended list. That will be Stetson Bennett, but Garoppolo is going to take over. He's getting paid too much not to, so you have that there. But at running back, there is a position battle here that's worth mentioning. The Rams added Blake Corum, 3rd round out of Michigan in this past draft. Kyren Williams is one of the best running backs in football. And then, of course, you have the addition recently of Boston Scott. So what does that mean for the running backs? Well, I think looking at the running backs, it's between Zach Evans and Ronnie Rivers for that final spot, and I do believe they're going to keep 4 running backs. I think Boston Scott can be utilized in the passing game, but also he's not a bad running back in general, but he's also going to be utilized as a returner, which will give him extra added value. So he's making the roster regardless. But I think it's between Zach Evans and Ronnie Rivers. I'm not going to say who wins this, but I don't think it's just cut and dry going to be Ronnie Rivers. I understand last year Zach Evans, 6th round pick, traded up for the Rams didn't really utilize. Even when Kyren Williams was out, they went and they signed Darrell Henderson. They used Royce Freeman, even Ronnie Rivers. But I expect Zach Evans to take the next step this season, okay? I don't necessarily think Zach Evans is going to be a 1, 2, or even 3, but I think it'll be good enough to make this team. I think Ronnie Rivers, while he's done a lot and he's worked really hard to be on this roster, it's important to remember he does have physical limitations. He has had a hard time staying healthy. And Zach Evans, if he can work out better in the passing game as a pass protector, because I don't think Ronnie Rivers is great in that department, but he is better. If Evans can get a little bit better, I think he offers too much, and especially he was a 6th round investment to not justify bringing him back and maybe trying to sneak Ronnie Rivers onto the practice squad. We move on to wide receiver, though. This is a position battle that matters. We have Tyler Johnson taking on Drake Stoops and Xavier Smith. I have Jordan Whittington making the team as a 6th round wide receiver out of Texas, and I do believe he's going to do that. But Tyler Johnson, Drake Stoops, and Xavier Smith are the guys I talked about. Here I decided to go with. There are other wide receivers, J.J. Lapp and Wiglis, Sam Wiglis, who are the other UDFA guys, but I think Drake Stoops has the best shot of the college free agents. As far as Tyler Johnson and Xavier Smith go, Johnson caught a touchdown in week 18, and Xavier Smith runs a 4.3, has blazing speed, and can be utilized as a return man. So they all offer something. Drake Stoops would be in that same mold as kind of like an Austin Trammell last year who had success. And I think when the Rams ultimately look at their offense, it's an offense that really is too good to fail. That anybody could be, as long as you're an NFL level player, you can succeed in this offense. And so because of that, I do think Stoops has a shot. I do think Smith has a shot. And I do definitely think Tyler Johnson has a shot. If I was giving the edge to anybody, like I gave Zach Evans over Ronnie Rivers, I'd give the edge to Tyler Johnson. I think Johnson is a more pure wide receiver than the other two. I think Stoops has a chance to be brought on the practice squad, work his way into into potentially down the road, maybe even being a number 4, kind of like, maybe a Cole Beasley coming up, or maybe even somebody like Braxton Berrios, or maybe even a Jamison Crowder, best case scenario. But I could see him being that. Tyler Johnson, on the other hand, still young, brought back again on a 1-year deal. I like Johnson's overall upside. Very excited about him. If he stays on this roster, I think he can work in the slot. He can work on the outside. He's a good route runner. He's got, ability after the catch. So that is definitely a position battle to look at. And obviously, if the Rams add any receiver to this room, like they go out and get, say, Cortland Sutton, then that, all bets are off. But I think Whittington's a lock, so he's not on here. But I do think Tyler Johnson, Drake Stoops, and Xavier Smith are really the battle moving forward. All right, and a special thanks for today's sponsor, Interval, who sent me literally 8 ports, 140 watt charging block. I mean, this thing is awesome. So I have all sorts of devices, and I'm sure you do, because devices run the world, whether we want to admit it or not, whether we like it or not. So with that said, I have an iPad I'm looking at here, a MacBook, an Asmure portable monitor. I got my iPhone down here. I mean, I have all sorts of devices. I can charge all of them with this thing. Just plug it in. It works extremely well. It's got all sorts of stuff to it. I mean, you talk about 8 ports. First off, you got 4 USB ports, and then you have the USB-C. You got 4 of these things, okay? Now, everything is USB-C nowadays, so I may not be somebody that has, a Galaxy or anything like that, or another alternate tablet. But if you do, this would work for you as well as your Apple devices, which, as you know, I'm a huge Apple device guy. So with that said, special shout out to them. This has been great. You can check it out in the comment section below. The promo link is going to be there. Basically, what you're getting is, 8 ports, 140 watts of total output power. But in addition to that, you have 65 watts coming out of this port to charge your laptop. So it's going to come with a wall charger for the 8 ports. You can see in the back here, it's going to come with 8 ports. And it's really that simple. You get a 24-month warranty. It has a 4.6 out of 5 stars on Amazon. You can check it out. Link is in the description. Now back to the show. Looking at tight end, we're talking about just the starter role, okay? Colby Parkinson signed a deal this year. Good money. Will take over as the starter in all likelihood, or so we think. But don't forget about Davis Allen, the 5th rounder out of Clemson, who had to play meaningful snaps last year, and I thought played pretty well. He's still a work in progress, but at the same time, Colby Parkinson isn't exactly a proven commodity either. We loved the move because we loved the move and the idea of going out and getting somebody with potential. But Davis Allen also has potential. So he was in-house last year. We'll see what ends up happening. I kept Hunter Long off this because I don't even think Hunter Long's going to make the roster. He might, maybe, but Tyler Higbee is going to be on the physically unable to perform list. I do expect him to be back, and maybe he'll reclaim his starting job. It's hard to say. I'm not going to assume, they're 100% going to do that. But what I will say is that Colby Parkinson versus Davis Allen is a real matchup. It's a real battle for the starting role. And I don't think it's something that we should sleep on. I don't think we should just automatically give the starting job to Colby Parkinson. I do think Davis Allen should be considered in the running. Parkinson is probably the favorite, and I would say he has the lead. But this is going to be a position battle, make no mistake about it, to watch. So that's what I have there. Then we move over to the defensive side. At the edge position here, we have the 3rd spot, okay? Everyone assumes that this is going to be Michael Hoyt because obviously you go out and you add Jared Verse, you put him across from Byron Young, and now, you need that number 3 guy. Michael Hoyt was brought back. He'll be the 3rd guy. Not so fast. I think Brennan Jackson has a shot. I think Nick Hampton has a shot. And I think O'Shawn Mathis has a shot. Another thing that is important here to bring back is that Michael Hoyt can play in the interior as well. So we don't know exactly how the Rams plan on deploying him. He is important. Don't make the mistake of thinking this guy is just a camp body, okay? Hoyt has started meaningful games. He's very athletic. He's been put in poor positioning, not on him, but just in general. And so I look at somebody like him where, yeah, he could absolutely be the third guy, but I don't think it's a guarantee. I think Brennan Jackson comes in as potentially the front runner here as the third option. He was an older player coming out of Washington State, and the thing that he does is he has a nose for the football. He had 2 touchdowns this past year, returning fumbles back for touchdowns. He is somebody that is going to help that room, as well as Nick Hampton, who I think can play some off-ball linebacker if need be. Always felt that way coming out of App State. And then you have O'Shawn Mathis, who's got crazy length, feels more like a Leonard Floyd, Terrell Lewis type of guy. So he fits the mold of what you love to see in an edge defender. It's just a matter of, hey, can you develop him? Can you get the most out of him? He looked really good before, I believe, at TCU, and then he transferred to Nebraska, and it wasn't really the same player. That was only 1 year, though, and I thought we saw some flashes of him this past year. So looking at that position battle, I'm going to give the lead to Michael Hoyt. I would say Brennan Jackson's right there, but don't forget about O'Shawn Mathis or Nick Hampton. Hampton was playing meaningful snaps down the stretch. We'll see what ends up happening there. At linebacker, this is for the 4th spot, okay? You got Troy Reeder versus Olakunle Fatukasi and the UDFA out of LSU, Omar Speights. Now, I like Speights. I don't know if Speights is going to make the team. I feel like this has to obviously be a Troy Reeder favorite. And another thing I have to say, in parentheses for linebacker 4, if there is one, because there might not be a 4th linebacker spot. That might just be a practice squad addition, okay? You have to understand something. The Rams don't really value inside linebackers as much as other teams. The reason being is because they're playing nickel a lot of the time. They're not even going to have 2 linebackers on the field most of the time. They do a decent amount of that, and we do see Christian Roseboom get opportunities, and Jake Hummel might come in when Roseboom goes down. And I think all 3 of those guys with, of course, Ernest Jones are locks to make this team. This is why I think it's a 4th spot. But the reason why it's not really super valued is because you also have guys playing in the star role. You have guys at linebacker. You have guys at safety that could essentially play linebacker in Cameron Curl and, of course, Quentin Lake. So that's the real reason there. I also mentioned Nick Hampton if they get into a pinch. So with the roster math there, it makes sense for a guy like Nick Hampton to maybe take on one of those roles in emergency, or Quentin Lake or Cameron Curl. But if there is a 4th linebacker, Troy Reeder has to be the favorite here. Omar Speights has the most potential. I think Olakunle Fatukasi is the best in special teams. So I think what you're getting is Troy Reeder's the better defensive guy, better leader, has experience in big games. Olakunle Fatukasi is a guy that's going to help you in the special teams room, and Omar Speights is going to have to play special teams, but he's the intriguing option who they ended up signing in UDFA, and one of the top UDFAs that they added in their class. So worth mentioning there. Moving on to cornerback here. This is an interesting one. And I'll just say this, the guy behind me, the jersey behind me, 44, Kello Witherspoon, he may not wear 44 since Brennan Jackson took over 44, but I would not be surprised if Kello came back. And the reason I say that is because Tre'Davious White, we found out, is on a $4.25 million deal. We know that Darius Williams signed basically a 1-year deal. It can go out to 3 years, but only 1 year is guaranteed. We don't know their thoughts on Kobe Durant. We don't know their thoughts on Cameron McCutcheon and Darion Kendrick and Sean Jolly and all those guys. We don't know. So I wouldn't be surprised if Kello Witherspoon was signed maybe after training camp, right before the season, or in the middle of training camp, similar to last year, and was given the opportunity to compete for a starting job on the outside. And then maybe you had a guy like Trey White or Darius Williams, probably Trey White coming off a major injury, kicking him inside as a slot corner. I wouldn't be surprised by that. But cornerback, let's just call it, this is kind of a free-for-all outside of Trey White and Darius Williams. I feel like those two have the starting spots locked up. After that, you're talking about Kobe Durant versus Cameron McCutcheon versus Darion Kendrick versus Trey Tomlinson versus Cameron Lampkin versus Josh Wallace. I mean, there's a lot here. Now, Josh Wallace from Michigan is one of the UDFAs that I think would be a favorite to make this team. However, I don't know how many corners they're going to keep because they do have positional flexibility when you keep Russ Yeast, who is a safety but can also play cornerback, which I think some people may have forgotten. So when you look at this cornerback room, I think Kobe Durant is clearly the third guy. Darion Kendrick is probably the fourth guy, but don't forget about Trey Tomlinson, okay? Trey Hodges Tomlinson, they drafted in the 6th round at TCU, a little shorter than teams wanted, so that's why he fell. But this is the Jim Thorpe Award winner in 2023. And so for me, I just don't really see how, or rather 2022, I don't see how somebody like that just gets forgotten about. Josh Wallace, I think, has a shot. I also think Cameron McCutcheon, who had a fantastic preseason. Cameron McCutcheon was brought back on a futures deal, so he'll get another crack at this thing, and I wouldn't be surprised if he somehow pulled it off. We've seen in the past the Rams do draft corners high, or decently high. They took Robert Rochelle in the 4th round, and then they cut him. Okay, so we've seen them not be afraid to cut guys that they drafted for better players on the roster. So this is going to be an interesting position battle. And then last but not least, the safety room, which is a massive position battle. You have Cameron Curl and Quentin Lake. We'll just kind of call them safeties for now. We're not really sure how they're going to utilize the star. Those two can both play it. We do know that, but we're going to call them safeties for now and starting safeties at that. After that, your third safety, this could be a battle, but I think I'm going to give this to the rookie, Cameron Kinchins. I think he just simply offers what the Rams are looking for with ball skills. This is a team that needs more interceptions. They can't have 10 in a season. They need to generate more turnovers and put the offense back on the field, which will surely be a top 5 offense, injuries permitting. With that said, though, looking at the safeties, Russ Yeast is definitely somebody who's had playing time. He's had experience. He's athletic. He has range. He's not a ball hawk like Cameron Kinchins, but he is something. He'll make the team. After that, who do they keep the next two safeties? So you got Cameron Kinchins, Cameron Curl, Quentin Lake, Russ Yeast, or maybe even one. Maybe they only keep one more safety. And if that's the case, last year's 7th round pick out of Oklahoma State, Jason Taylor II, who had a hard time staying healthy, supposedly going to be a key contributor on special teams. We'll see. Tanner Engel, who was a college free agent last year, played well in preseason, almost made the team, stuck around on the practice squad. We'll see there. And then you have guys like Kenny Logan and Jalen McAuliffe. I think Kenny Logan is kind of the sleeper here. So I think he's the one you really need to look out for out of Kansas. He's somebody that can play special teams. He was a captain for that defense. This is somebody who didn't test extremely well, but plays much faster on film. In addition to that, we still don't know what Jason Taylor II is. So we've seen this in the past. They've drafted guys in the secondary, 6th, 7th round, and then you give them a shot, and then down the road, they end up developing into something. So I'm sure they had a vision when they drafted Jason Taylor II. He was, after all, part of last year's extraordinary draft class. So end of the day, I really like what the Rams have going for them. A lot of position battles. I think my favorite position battle is edge. The reason being, I think we're really going to see some big leaps forward from some of these guys. O'Shawn Mathis. I remember when you had Lance Zierlein on NFL Network, and they had just drafted O'Shawn Mathis, and he said one thing that really interests me. They're taking him as a lottery ticket. 2 years down the road, he's either going to be something, something that they took and he ended up developing into something, or he's not. And I think that's a fair thing to say. I like Mathis. I like his overall body composition. I like his athletic profile. And I thought he flashed on tape. So we'll see what ends up happening there. I like Nick Hampton. I like the way he was playing at the end of the year. I like his off-ball qualities. I love Brennan Jackson. You guys already know that. We made a video on it. Just fits the mold of a Ram. And I'm a big fan of Michael Hoyt. He gets a lot of crap, but I think a lot of people don't realize the positions he was put in were really just kind of unfair for, his body composition. His athleticism is crazy, but to be fair, he had him covering Dallas Goedert 40 yards down the field. It just doesn't work well that way. I mean, you can have Aaron Donald doing the same thing. I don't know if he's going to be able to cover at the level that everyone would assume because of his athletic profile. And don't forget, Michael Hoyt was also crazy athletic. So those 4 guys, I think I'm really looking in on. Keir Thomas could also be considered in there. I don't want to leave him out. And same thing with Zach Van Valkenburg, although they're very, very far out in my opinion. But, who knows? We'll see. Those are my Rams position battles for you to watch, and I hope you guys enjoyed. Be sure to like, subscribe, and comment. Be sure to follow me on all social media at JK Bogan, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Later, folks. Do you love talking about the Rams, the NFL, or just want to be a part of a community? Join my free Discord server today. We're over 800 members. We got 24/7 live chat, a level 3 boosted server, the ability to call into JE Live, playing online games with us on Kick streams, toggleable alerts for when I go live on YouTube or Kick so you don't miss a live stream, and exclusive giveaways. Click the link in the description, the comments section, or the link that comes up in the video to learn more and join today.